It all started on a Thursday night, inside a packed arena buzzing with energy. The crowd was on its feet cheering wildly as two basketball teams battled it out in one of the most intense playoff games of the season. On one side was Caitlin Clark, the young star who had taken the league by storm with her incredible shooting and calm demeanor. Opposing her was Alyssa Thomas, a veteran player known for her grit, determination, and sometimes, her fiery temper. The game was close. Too close. Every basket felt like a heavyweight punch, and every defensive stop seemed to shift the momentum. With just under 2 minutes left on the clock, tensions reached their peak. Players were shouting instructions, fans were screaming at the top of their lungs, and emotions were running high. That's when it happened. Alyssa Thomas, frustrated after missing an easy layup, turned toward Caitlin Clark during a timeout huddle near the bench. What she said next would change everything. Microphones picked up her voice clearly, capturing words that sent shockwaves through the sports world. Her comments weren't just trash talk, they carried undertones that many found deeply offensive. Some called them racially charged, while others labeled them outright racist. At first, no one noticed. The commentators kept talking about the game, and the crowd remained focused on the scoreboard. But within minutes, someone uploaded the audio clip online. Social media exploded almost instantly. Fans replayed the clip, dissecting every word, every tone, every pause. By the time halftime rolled around, hashtags like #Stand with Caitlin and Justice for Clark were trending worldwide. People couldn't believe what they were hearing. How could something like this happen in 2023? Wasn't racism supposed to be a thing of the past? For Caitlin Clark, the moment must have been surreal. Here she was, playing the game she loved, only to become the center of a controversy she never asked for. She didn't react immediately, though. Instead, she stayed composed, keeping her focus on the court like nothing had happened. The morning after the game, it felt like the entire sports world had woken up to a storm. News outlets were buzzing with headlines about the heated exchange between the two players. Social media was flooded with opinions, some people defending Alyssa Thomas, saying she was just caught up in the heat of the moment, while others demanded consequences for her words. It wasn't long before screenshots of tweets, memes, and fan reactions dominated timelines. Alyssa Thomas broke her silence first. Early that day, she released a carefully worded statement through her team's PR department. In it, she denied any wrongdoing, claiming her comments had been taken out of context. "I'm not a racist," she said firmly. "What I said during the game has nothing to do with race. People are twisting my words to create drama where there is none." Her teammates and coaches quickly rallied behind her, calling the backlash unfair and accusing critics of trying to ruin her reputation. But the damage was already done. Fans who supported Caitlin Clark weren't buying it. They pointed out that regardless of intent, the words Alyssa used carried weight, and that weight hurt. Videos surfaced online showing Caitlin walking off the court after the game, her face unreadable but her body language tense. Friends close to her later revealed that she spent hours talking to her family and agent about what had happened. She decided not to respond publicly, at least not yet. Meanwhile, the debate raged on. Sports talk shows dedicated entire segments to dissecting the incident. Some analysts argued that trash talk was part of the game, no matter how ugly it got. Others insisted that crossing into discriminatory language was unacceptable, period. One host even brought up past incidents involving athletes making offensive remarks, reminding viewers that history often repeated itself unless real action was taken. Amid all the noise, one name kept coming up: Stephen A. Known for his bold takes and unfiltered honesty. He promised to address the issue when he returned to his show. Fans eagerly awaited his perspective because they knew he wouldn't shy away from speaking the truth, even if it made people uncomfortable. Until then, the internet continued to explode with arguments, memes, and petitions demanding justice. For Caitlin herself, life became chaotic overnight. Strangers slid into her social media DMs, offering support or sharing their own stories of facing discrimination. Journalists bombarded her team with requests for interviews, hoping to get her side of the story. But Caitlin stayed quiet, letting her game do the talking instead. During practice sessions, she worked harder than ever, determined to prove that nothing, not even this controversy, could distract her from her goals. Behind closed doors, however, the toll was evident. Caitlin's parents worried about how much pressure she was under. Her younger sibling texted her constantly, asking if she was okay. Even her closest friends noticed a change in her demeanor. Normally bubbly and full of laughter, Caitlin now seemed more reserved, choosing her words carefully whenever the topic came up. As days passed, the divide grew wider. Supporters of Alyssa Thomas doubled down, accusing everyone else of being too sensitive. Meanwhile, Caitlin's fans grew angrier, feeling like the league wasn't doing enough to hold Alyssa accountable. Rumors swirled about potential fines or suspensions, but nothing official had been announced yet. The uncertainty only added fuel to the fire. In the middle of all this chaos, small moments of humanity began to shine through. Young fans posted videos sharing why Caitlin inspired them. Community leaders organized discussions about racism and respect in sports. And somewhere along the way, people realized that this wasn't just about two players anymore. It was about something bigger. It was about fairness, accountability, and whether society was willing to stand up against harmful behavior, even when it came from someone famous. Still, the question lingered. What would happen next? Would Alyssa admit fault, or would she continue, denying responsibility? Would Caitlin finally break her silence, or would she let her actions speak louder than words? And most importantly, would anyone step up to ensure that incidents like this didn't happen again? The stage was set for a reckoning, one that would force everyone involved to confront uncomfortable truths. Little did they know, one man was about to throw gasoline on the flames and turn the conversation upside down. The day everyone had been waiting for finally arrived. Stephen A. took his seat at the ESPN desk, looking unusually serious. There was no playful banter with his co-hosts, no light-hearted jokes to ease into the show. Instead, he leaned forward, adjusted his mic, and looked straight into the camera. The studio lights reflected off his glasses as he began to speak, his voice steady but charged with emotion. "Let me make one thing clear," he started, his tone leaving no room for misunderstanding. "This isn't about basketball. This isn't even about trash talk. This is about respect, or the lack of it. What we heard on that court wasn't just words. It was a reflection of something deeper, something uglier." He paused for a moment, letting his words sink in. Then he continued, his voice rising slightly. "Racism has no place in sports. It has no place in our society. And yet here we are again, talking about it because someone thought they could say whatever they wanted without consequences." Stephen A. didn't mince words. He called out Alyssa Thomas directly, refusing to sugarcoat what he believed she had done wrong. "You don't get to hide behind excuses like it was taken out of context or, 'I didn't mean it that way.' Those kinds of defenses don't work when people are hurt. If your words caused pain, and they clearly did, then you need to own up to it." His delivery was raw and unfiltered, the kind that made viewers sit up and pay attention. He didn't just criticize Alyssa. He explained why her actions mattered so much. When you're in the spotlight, you carry responsibility. Kids look up to you, fans admire you, people trust you to represent them, not just on the court, but off it too. When you cross that line, you betray that trust. As he spoke, clips of the game played on the screen behind him. The audio of Alyssa's comments echoed faintly, a reminder of what had sparked this firestorm. Stephen A. pointed at the footage, his finger jabbing emphatically. "Listen to those words again. Really. Listen, do they sound like trash talk? Or do they sound like something else entirely?" He shifted gears, addressing Caitlin Clark next. "And let's talk about her, the young woman who had to hear all of this. She didn't lash out. She didn't retaliate. She handled herself with grace and dignity, even though she was put in an impossible position. That takes strength. That takes character." Stephen A.'s passion was undeniable, and it resonated deeply with his audience. He wasn't just speaking to the cameras, he was speaking to anyone who had ever felt dismissed, belittled, or attacked because of who they were. "We can't keep pretending these things don't happen," he said firmly. "Silence is complicity. If we don't call out racism when we see it, we're part of the problem. By the time he finished, the studio was eerily quiet. Even his co-hosts seemed stunned, exchanging glances as if unsure how to respond. One of them finally broke the silence, saying, "That was powerful." Another nodded, adding, "You really laid it all out there." But Stephen A. wasn't done. Before signing off, he issued a challenge not just to Alyssa Thomas but to everyone watching. If you truly believe in equality, in fairness, in treating others with respect, then prove it. Don't just say it, live it, because words mean nothing without action. The segment ended, but its impact lingered. Social media exploded within minutes. Fans shared clips of Stephen A.'s monologue, praising him for calling out racism head-on. Some called it one of the most important moments in sports commentary history. Others argued that he went too far, accusing him of sensationalizing the situation for ratings. But love him or hate him, no one could deny that he had struck a nerve. Alyssa Thomas's camp wasted no time responding. Within hours, her team released a statement accusing Stephen A. of grandstanding and exploiting the controversy for personal gain. They claimed he was trying to destroy her career while ignoring the complexities of competitive sports. But their defense fell flat for many viewers who saw it as deflecting blame rather than taking accountability. For Caitlin Clark, the fallout was different. Though she hadn't said a word publicly, fans rallied around her more fiercely than ever. Her jersey sales skyrocketed and hashtags like #NotRespectCaitlin trended worldwide. People admired her composure, her refusal to stoop to negativity, despite being dragged into such a messy situation. She became a symbol of resilience. Reminder that staying true to yourself often speaks louder than any comeback. Backstage at ESPN, Stephen A. received mixed reactions. Some colleagues applauded his courage, telling him he'd done the right thing. Others warned him that speaking out so boldly could alienate certain viewers. But Stephen A. didn't seem fazed. As he walked out of the studio that night, he muttered to himself, "Sometimes you have to ruffle feathers to start a conversation worth having." Little did he know his words would set off a chain reaction that would change lives, including his own. The ball was now in Alyssa's court. Would she dig in her heels and deny everything, or would she step up and take responsibility? Either way, the world was watching and waiting to see what happened next. The days following Stephen A.'s explosive monologue felt like a whirlwind. The sports world and beyond was abuzz with reactions, opinions, and heated debates. It wasn't just fans talking anymore. Sponsors, brands, and even the league itself were forced to take sides. For Alyssa Thomas, the fallout hit hard and fast. First came the sponsors. One by one, companies that had proudly featured her in their campaigns began pulling out. A major shoe brand released a statement saying they stand firmly against discrimination in all forms, and announced they would be ending their partnership with her immediately. Another sponsor, a popular energy drink company, followed suit, citing concerns about associating with divisive figures. Overnight, Alyssa went from being a marketing powerhouse to someone brands wanted nothing to do with. Her team tried to defend her, issuing statements urging patience and understanding. They argued that canceling deals over an incident still under investigation was premature, but it didn't matter. Public perception had shifted and sponsors weren't willing to risk alienating their customers. Behind closed doors, Alyssa reportedly felt blindsided. She had always prided herself on being tough, unshakable. But this was different. This wasn't just criticism. It was rejection on a massive scale. Meanwhile, the WNBA launched its own investigation into the incident. League officials reviewed game footage, interviewed players and staff, and consulted experts on racial sensitivity. While the process dragged on, rumors swirled about what punishment might await Alyssa if found guilty. Would she face a suspension, a hefty fine, or something worse, a tarnished legacy that could haunt her forever? For Caitlin Clark, life took a surprising turn. Despite choosing to stay silent publicly, her quiet strength resonated deeply with fans. Social media flooded with messages of support, praising her for rising above the drama. Her jersey sales soared as people bought them not just to celebrate her skills but also to show solidarity. Young girls especially looked up to her, seeing her as proof that you don't have to respond to hate with more hate. You can let your actions speak louder. Her family noticed the change too. Friends who hadn't reached out in years suddenly messaged her, sharing how proud they were of how she handled everything. Even strangers stopped her in public to thank her for inspiring them. At first, Caitlin was overwhelmed by the attention, but soon, she realized it wasn't just about her, it was about what she represented. People saw hope in her story, a reminder that grace under pressure could inspire others to do better. As the controversy unfolded, the divide between supporters of the two players grew wider. Some diehard fans of Alyssa refused to believe she was wrong, accusing everyone else of being overly sensitive. Others doubled down on their outrage, insisting that accountability was long overdue. Online forums turned into battlegrounds with arguments raging late into the night. But amidst the chaos, small moments of reflection began to emerge. Local community groups organized discussions about racism in sports, inviting former athletes and activists to share their experiences. Schools held assemblies where students talked openly about respect and inclusion. Even some of Alyssa's defenders started questioning whether defending her meant excusing harmful behavior, or if there was a way to hold her accountable without tearing her down completely. Behind the scenes, Alyssa struggled to find her footing. Without her usual endorsements and facing mounting pressure, she withdrew from public appearances. Teammates reported seeing her spend hours alone after practice, staring at her phone or scrolling through social media. Her frustration was evident. During games too, her performance dipped noticeably, and coaches pulled her aside multiple times to check on her mental state. It wasn't until a candid interview aired on national television that Alyssa showed any sign of vulnerability. Sitting across from a well-known journalist, she spoke softly, her usual bravado replaced by uncertainty. "I never intended to hurt anyone," she said, her voice trembling. "I know I messed up, but I don't know how to fix it." Though many viewers appreciated her honesty, others remained skeptical. Critics pointed out that admitting fault was only the first step. If she truly wanted forgiveness, she'd need to show real change. For now, though, her words offered a glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, there was still a chance for redemption. Stephen watched all of this unfold from his desk at ESPN. He received both praise and backlash for his role in sparking the conversation. Some thanked him for shining a light on racism, while others accused him of going too far. But he seemed unfazed, continuing to use his platform to push for meaningful dialogue. In one segment, he reminded viewers that accountability wasn't about destroying someone, it was about helping them grow. By the end of the week, the league announced its decision. Alyssa would be fined heavily and required to attend mandatory sensitivity training. Additionally, she would issue a formal apology, not just to Caitlin but to the entire community affected by her words. It wasn't the harshest punishment some had hoped for, but it sent a clear message. Discriminatory behavior wouldn't be tolerated. For Caitlin, the ruling brought a sense of closure. She didn't gloat or celebrate, instead she focused on moving forward. During a post-game press conference, she finally broke her silence, speaking briefly about the importance of unity in sports. "We're all human," she said simply. "And we all make mistakes. What matters is how we learn from them." Her words echoed Stephen A's earlier message, tying the whole saga together. The storm may have passed, but its effects lingered. Lives had been changed, careers altered, and conversations sparked that would continue long after the headlines faded. And as the dust settled, one thing became clear. This wasn't just about two players. It was about a society grappling with its values, its flaws, and its potential for growth. Months passed, and the initial firestorm began to die down. But for Alyssa Thomas, life was far from normal. The fallout from her comments had left deep scars, both professionally and personally. Sponsorships that once defined her career were gone. Her name, which used to be synonymous with toughness and resilience, now carried a stigma she couldn't shake. It wasn't just about losing money or endorsements. It was the weight of knowing she had let so many people down. At first, Alyssa tried to push through it all. She showed up to practice every day, worked harder than ever on the court, and avoided interviews like the plague. But no matter how much effort she put into her game, something felt off. Coaches noticed her hesitation during games. Teammates saw her pulling away, isolating herself in locker rooms instead of joining group conversations. Even fans who had once cheered her on now watched her with cautious eyes, unsure if they could trust her again. One evening, after yet another tough loss, Alyssa sat alone in an empty gym. The lights above buzzed softly as she stared at the basketball, in her hand spinning it slowly on one finger. For the first time in months, she allowed herself to really think, to dig deep and confront the emotions she'd been running from. She thought about the young fans who looked up to her, the teammates who counted on her leadership, and the legacy she wanted to leave behind. And then she thought about Caitlin Clark. Caitlin hadn't said much publicly since the incident, but her quiet strength spoke volumes. Every time Alyssa saw her play, she couldn't help but admire how composed Caitlin remained despite everything. There was no bitterness, no retaliation, just focus and determination. It made Alyssa wonder, what would it take to earn even a fraction of that respect back? That night, Alyssa decided to reach out. Through mutual contacts, she sent a message asking if Caitlin would be willing to meet privately. To her surprise and relief, Caitlin agreed. They arranged to meet at a quiet cafe near the arena, away from cameras and prying eyes. The meeting lasted over 2 hours. Neither player revealed exactly what was said, but those close to them described it as raw and emotional. Alyssa apologized, sincerely, owning up to the hurt she had caused, not just to Caitlin but to everyone affected by her words. She admitted she hadn't fully understood the impact of what she'd said until it was too late. Caitlin listened patiently, sharing how the incident had shaken her confidence and tested her patience. In the end, she accepted Alyssa's apology, saying she believed everyone deserved a second chance if they were truly willing to change. News of their meeting leaked soon after, sparking widespread reactions. Some praised Caitlin for her generosity, calling her the bigger person. Others questioned whether Alyssa's apology was genuine or simply a calculated move to rebuild her image. But both players chose to ignore the noise, focusing instead on moving forward. Alyssa threw herself into making amends. She started attending community events aimed at promoting inclusivity in sports, often speaking openly about her mistakes and what she'd learned from them. At one event, she stood before a room full of young athletes and admitted, "I messed up. I said things I shouldn't have, and I hurt people I never meant to hurt. But I'm here today because I want to do better. For myself, for my sport, and for all of you." Her vulnerability struck a chord. Parents approached her afterward, thanking her for setting an example of accountability. Kids asked for autographs, not realizing how much those simple gestures meant to her. Slowly but surely, Alyssa began rebuilding trust, not just with fans but with herself. Stephen A. played a role in this journey too, though indirectly. During one of his shows, he acknowledged Alyssa's efforts, saying, "Accountability isn't easy. It takes courage to admit when you're wrong, and it takes even more to work toward change. Let's see where this goes." His words carried weight, signaling to viewers that while forgiveness wasn't automatic, growth was possible. For Caitlin, the aftermath of the controversy brought new opportunities. Brands eager to align themselves with positivity and resilience reached out, offering partnerships that went beyond traditional endorsements. She became a spokesperson for campaigns promoting mental health awareness and equality in sports. Yet, despite her rising fame, she stayed grounded, always prioritizing teamwork over individual accolades. Both players returned to the court with renewed purpose. Alyssa's game improved, not just because of her skills but because of her attitude. She became a mentor to younger teammates, encouraging them to speak up when something didn't feel right. Caitlin continued to shine, leading her team with the same humility that had won hearts worldwide. Their paths crossed again during a charity game, organized to raise funds for underprivileged youth. When Alyssa passed the ball to Caitlin for a crucial shot, The crowd erupted, not just because of the play itself, but because it symbolized healing. Two rivals, once divided by controversy, were now united by a shared goal, using their platform to inspire others. Off the court, discussions about racism and accountability gained momentum. Schools incorporated lessons about respectful communication into their curriculums. Sports organizations implemented stricter policies against discriminatory behavior, and fans, inspired by the players' journeys, started holding each other accountable online, reminding everyone that words matter. As the season progressed, Alyssa found solace in small victories. A fan tweeted a photo of her daughter wearing an old Alyssa jersey saying, "We still believe in you." Another wrote, "Your apology gave me hope that people can change." These messages fueled her determination to keep growing, to prove that redemption wasn't just a word, it was a choice. Caitlin, meanwhile, reflected on how far she'd come. She realized the incident, painful as it was, had taught her valuable lessons about resilience and grace. Sometimes, she told a reporter during a rare interview, the hardest moments shape us into who we're meant to be. By the end of the year, the story of Alyssa and Caitlin had become more than just a cautionary tale. It was a testament to humanity's capacity for forgiveness and growth. Their journey reminded everyone that while mistakes are inevitable, it's how we respond to them that defines us. And for two athletes thrust into the spotlight, it was proof that even in the darkest times, there's always a path toward light. The dust had settled, but the ripple effects of that explosive incident continued to shape lives. For Caitlin Clark and Alyssa Thomas, the journey wasn't just about basketball anymore. It was about leaving a mark on the world beyond the court. Their story became a turning point, not only for them personally, but also for the entire sports community. It sparked conversations that refused to fade quietly into the background. Caitlin's star kept rising, but she handled it with the same humility that had won people over in the first place. She didn't let fame go to her head. Instead, she used her platform to speak out about issues close to her heart: racism, mental health, and equality in sports. Schools invited her to give motivational talks, where she shared stories of overcoming challenges without letting bitterness take root. Kids listened intently, hanging on to every word as she reminded them that kindness and resilience could change the game, not just in sports but in life. Her team benefited too. With Caitlin leading by example, the locker room culture shifted. Players started looking out for each other more, creating an environment where everyone felt valued. Even opponents noticed the difference. They respected how Caitlin carried herself both on and off the court. Her jersey became more than just merchandise. It symbolized hope and unity. Fans wore it proudly, knowing they were supporting someone who stood for something bigger than basketball. For Alyssa Thomas, redemption came slowly but steadily. The road wasn't easy, and there were days when doubt crept back in. Would people ever fully trust her again? Could she erase the stain on her reputation? These questions haunted her late at night, but she pushed through, determined to prove that real change was possible. Every small victory, a fan cheering for her during a game, a child asking for her autograph, a sponsor cautiously returning, felt like a step forward. One of the most powerful moments came when Alyssa joined forces with Caitlin for a joint initiative aimed at combating discrimination in sports. Together, they launched a program focused on educating young athletes about respect, empathy, and accountability. Workshops were held across cities, bringing together kids from diverse backgrounds. To learn how to navigate conflicts respectfully, the two players led discussions, sharing their own experiences openly and honestly. "It's okay to make mistakes," Alyssa told a group of wide-eyed teenagers during one session. "But you have to be willing to face them, learn from them, and do better next time. That's what growth looks like." Caitlin chimed in, adding, "And don't forget, you're never alone. There's always someone ready to help if you're willing to ask." The workshops resonated deeply with participants. Parents thanked the organizers, saying their kids came home talking about respect and fairness in ways they hadn't before. Teachers reported seeing changes in school hallways: fewer arguments, more teamwork. Slowly but surely, the message spread. Sports weren't just about winning or losing. They were about building character. Stephen A. stayed involved too, using his show to amplify these efforts. He dedicated multiple segments to highlighting the progress being made, showcasing stories of athletes who had turned their struggles into opportunities for growth. His passion remained unwavering, reminding viewers that accountability wasn't just about punishing bad behavior. It was about fostering understanding and creating a better future. The league took notice as well. Officials implemented stricter policies against discriminatory language, ensuring consequences were clear and consistent. Training programs focused on diversity and inclusion became mandatory for all players and staff. Referees received additional guidance on handling heated situations, while broadcasters were encouraged to call out inappropriate behavior immediately. The goal was simple yet profound: to create a safer, more respectful environment for everyone involved. As the season drew to a close, both Caitlin and Alyssa found themselves reflecting on how far they'd come. Caitlin led her team to the playoffs, earning MVP honors along the way. Her performance was impressive, but it was her leadership that truly shone. Teammates described her as a calming presence, someone who brought out the best in everyone around her. Fans cheered louder than ever, not just because of her skills, but because of the person she represented. Someone who believed in doing the right thing, even when it was hard. Alyssa, meanwhile, fought to rebuild her career brick by brick. Though statistics showed her numbers were slightly down compared to previous seasons, her impact went beyond points scored or rebounds grabbed. She became a mentor to younger players, teaching them lessons she had learned the hard way. Coaches praised her for stepping up as a leader, focusing less on individual glory and more on lifting the team. By the end of the year, she earned the respect of many who had once doubted her sincerity. Their paths crossed one last time during the championship game. Caitlin's team faced off against Alyssa's in a nail-biting showdown that kept fans glued to their seats. When the final buzzer sounded, Caitlin's team emerged victorious, but the real win transcended the scoreboard. After the game, cameras caught a moment between the two players, Alyssa extending her hand, Caitlin accepting it with a smile. They hugged briefly, then walked off the court together side by side. That image went viral overnight. Social media flooded with posts celebrating the symbolism of their gesture. Commentators called it a full-circle moment, proof that healing was possible even after the deepest wounds. Fans posted side-by-side photos of the controversy and the handshake, captioning them with messages like, "This is what growth looks like," and "Respect isn't given, it's earned." Looking ahead, both players vowed to keep pushing for change. Caitlin planned to expand her outreach programs, reaching even more communities in need. Alyssa committed to continuing her work as an advocate for accountability and inclusivity. And Stephen A. promised to remain a voice for justice, challenging others to confront uncomfortable truths rather than ignore them. In the end, the incident that once threatened to tear everything apart had instead brought people closer together. It reminded everyone that no matter how divided we might seem, there's always common ground to be found, if we're brave enough to seek it. For Caitlin and Alyssa, the journey wasn't perfect, but it was real. And sometimes that's all that matters.